Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, as well as guided meditation programs. Between a full-time job in IT and a full-time job in podcasting, it gets harder and harder to sit down and read the books I'm interested in. This is where Audible comes in. I can listen on my daily commute, relaxing, or while out running errands and still get in the books I've been wanting to get into. You can download titles and listen offline anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets. Now you can try Audible risk-free with a special 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. That's audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. Don't let your busy life get in the way of that great book you've been wanting to read. Go get your free trial of Audible today. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. This is Jeffrey, and we've talked about many times before that I experience problems and struggles with my mental health. And really, without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy does work. It's helped for me, but what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, or you're not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's really time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles, and it's time to start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is a customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And there's a special offer to Nerdery and Murdery listeners. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. That's betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast. All right, welcome to a bonus episode this week, and this is
big bonus.
This is and Murdery this week.
And Murdery, murder.
So not this week. It's a bonus episode. So we're just covering a murder, and William really was the one that wanted me to do this. It's a very current topic to cover, a very current true crime, very current murder. And so we thought we would give everybody kind of a little treat and have a bonus episode to come out. Hopefully we'll have this out in a couple of days.
Yep.
So somewhere in the week of October 3rd, this will be out to listeners. So just a nice little bonus treat.
Sweet.
So with that, I'll go ahead and get into it. For this story, I've got several sources that I got information from. Got information off ABC 7 New York, Insider, a couple of Instagram accounts, Outsider, Conan Daily. Doesn't appear to be related to Conan O'Brien.
Okay.
It's called Conan Daily. New York Post and Distractify. Love the name of that website. And this is going to be the story of Gabby Petito. Are you familiar with this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Very, very, very current.
Yes.
I have notes updated as of yesterday.
Okay.
So we're getting new information daily on this as more information has come out. I've been following this since the very beginning, since she was reported as a missing person. which I'll get into. But yeah, there have literally been updates constantly, daily. So, how much do you know about the case?
Only tangentially.
Okay.
Things I've seen. It was basically the girl went out with her boyfriend.
Right.
He came back without her, and it's like,
Right.
where is she?
Right.
You don't go off someplace and then not come back with somebody.
Well, and so who we're talking about is Gabby Petito, and Brian Laundrie. They were high school sweethearts.
Mm-hmm.
They met at Bayport Blue Point High School in Long Island, New York. And Brian was a year older than Gabby, so it's not a big age difference. He was a junior when she was a sophomore.
Okay.
Everybody said they were very quickly drawn together.
Okay.
Drawn together, they would get in a relationship, but they had their ups and downs. They were kind of off again, on again dating. There was a friend of Gabby's, Alyssa Chen, who said they had times when they were toxic and times when everything seemed a lot more healthy. They had very low lows and very high highs.
Okay.
Ben Matula, who was a friend of Brian's, said one minute they'd be all over each other. The next minute, Brian would be like, "We're fighting." So yeah, and in 2016, they decided to take a break from each other for several months. Brian graduated high school, and sometime before June 7th, 2017, Brian and his family moved to Northport, Florida.
Okay.
Where his parents, Christopher and Roberta Laundrie, owned and ran Juicer Services, which was a company that sells and services commercial juicing equipment.
Oh, cool.
And I say sometime before this date because the company was incorporated on June 7th.
Okay.
So we know it was somewhere before this.
People from New York moving to Florida. That never happens.
Right. Somewhere during this period, Gabby and Brian reconnected and they rekindled their relationship. And in 2019, Gabby left New York and moved in with Brian and his family in Northport. So, pretty quick to get on again. Then she moves down there to move in with them. In July of 2020, Brian and Gabby got engaged.
Okay.
Gabby had an Instagram post on July 2nd, which has now been removed, but I did find it, and it showed a picture from their first date, which said, "Here's a picture from our first date because I have so much love for you. Brian asked me to marry him, and I said yes. At Bizarre Design, you make me feel unreal, and every day is such a dream with you." Bizarre Design was his Instagram handle. Brian followed up with a post on July 3rd saying, "My biggest fear is one day I'll wake up and it will all have been a dream, because that is what every second has felt like since the moment we found each other. Till death do us part, until I wake up. I'm so happy the answer is yes. Love you, honey." So his Instagram account is still there. And I did check that out. There were a lot of drawings on there, and I'm going to be very honest. His artwork disturbed me a little bit.
Okay.
It's a very stark contrast to Gabby's very bright and happy Instagram. And there will be a link in the show notes for both because her Instagram is still there. They've taken down some posts.
Yeah.
And his is. And I mean, there were some drawings of The Simpsons and, I think it was from A Nightmare Before Christmas, maybe.
Yeah.
They kind of creep me out a little bit. So see for yourself, go and see the links, and maybe me just knowing this story had something to do with that. I don't know. They did actually end up calling off their engagement because they felt things were going way too fast.
Right on.
Gabby's mother said, "I think they kind of put that on hold just because they felt it was a little fast."
Well, he graduated in 2016, right?
Yeah, I think that's correct.
That's really kind of young to get married.
I agree.
Always been my thought.
I agree. I don't disagree with that at all. I think we talked about this in another episode. You're still really learning who you're going to be.
Yes.
I mean, granted, it's not as much as in the teenage years, but in your 20s, you're really developing into who you're going to be, and you're not going to hit there till probably about 30.
There's a scientific reason for that. Your frontal lobe does not stop developing until you're 25, roughly. It's some people it's 24, some people it's 26 or 27, but the average is about 25. So your brain isn't even fully developed until then. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say people shouldn't ever get married young, but I agree with you. For most people, it's probably too early.
Yeah.
But and her mom said that they were really just boyfriend and girlfriend after that.
Yeah.
But one of Gabby's friends, Rose Davis, she painted a little bit different picture of the relationship. She said she remembered a time when Brian stole Gabby's ID on a night that Rose and Gabby had planned to go to a dance club, so that Gabby couldn't go.
Okay. That's kind of creepy.
Yeah. And then Rose said that Brian had jealousy issues, that Gabby would frequently stay over at Rose's house, so she didn't have to deal with one of Brian's quote-unquote episodes, during which he would, quote, hear things and hear voices and wouldn't sleep.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, that's a big old red flag.
I would think so.
That's like a May Day parade in the former Soviet Union, big red flag.
But, Gabby and Brian were together, boyfriend and girlfriend, and they decided what they wanted to do is they wanted to work to buy a van because they wanted to convert it to a small home and travel the country.
Okay.
She really wanted to be she wanted to do a travel blog.
Okay.
She wanted to document their travels on Instagram and on YouTube, and she had a blog that she worked on.
Right on.
So she thought this would be really cool if they just traveled cross country.
Right on.
Very little money. They would live off the land. Brian was a camper, and apparently she was too.
Okay.
So that was their plan. They did accomplish this and purchased the van on December 11th, 2020.
Okay.
And Gabby called it, quote, a garden on wheels. New van means new adventures.
Right on. Yeah, I have seen some conversions of like school buses and some smaller vans where they make the tiny houses out of them.
Sure.
They're amazing.
And this was a tiny house. This was a Ford Transit.
Okay. It's a big van.
It's not really big. It really isn't. I would say really very pickup sized. It's not huge. It's not huge. And there's a video that I'm going to talk about here in a little while, and you can go out and watch the video and see. It's got a ladder that leads up to the roof, so, it's kind of tall, but it's not really huge. At one point, you do get a shot in the van. Wow, they had a lot of stuff crammed in there.
Oh,
I don't know how they slept back there and things like that. But
well, when you're 22, 23, you could sleep on a bare rock.
Maybe, and they did. They slept in tents and slept at campgrounds. So on July 2nd, 2021. So this is how recent this whole thing started. Brian and Gabby set off on their adventure. They'd planned to take 4 months to cross country.
Okay.
On Gabby's travel blog and Instagram and everything, all of her photos were very, very cheery, very bright.
Yeah.
And all the photos, honestly, were very loving photos of her and him.
Yeah.
They looked very, very happy. I can't deny that when I look at it. They traveled from Florida to Kansas, Colorado, and Utah, again, touring and camping at national parks and attractions along the way. According to Gabby's Instagram timeline, they stopped at these locations. On July 4th, they were at Monument Rock, Kansas. July 8th, Colorado Springs, Colorado. On July 10th, Great Sand Dunes National Park and Preserve in Colorado.
Oh, nice.
July 16th, they were at Zion National Park in Utah. July 21st, Bryce Canyon National Park in Utah.
Bryce Canyon and Zion are... Everybody has seen them because John Ford used to shoot up there in Monument Valley all the time. Like those John Wayne movies, those big vistas.
Oh, then I'm sure I'd know it if I saw it. July 26th, they were in Mystic Hot Springs, Utah. On July 29th, Canyonlands National Park, Utah. And August 12th, Arches National Park in Utah. So on August 12th is when a 911 call came into police, and it was reported that there was a altercation between a man and a woman. The witness, there was at least one witness that said they saw the man striking the woman. Another witness said she saw the woman striking the man. So it's a little conflicting at that point. But the call came in. Police did come across the van, and Brian was speeding at that time. And as the officer was following, he hit the curb and then ended up being pulled over. From this point, this is all on body cam video.
Okay.
So the police...
Yay, body cam video.
Yes. And like I said, I'm going to put a link out there. The entire footage, uncut, is, if I recall right, an hour and 17 minutes.
Wow.
The dashboard on the officer's car showed it was 104 degrees out.
Oh.
They were so, and I get into it a little bit more. Brian was outside with the officers the whole time. Gabby was put in the back of the police cruiser in air conditioning. That's what the officer said. He said, "You're not under arrest. We're just going to put you here, get some
Because it's 104
air."
degrees.
Exactly. But Brian stood outside. Now, Brian is bald. So, he had talked about that. He really kind of liked to stay in the shade. I'm telling you right now,
sunburn on top of your head sucks.
Sure. And, he talked about that he really kind of needed some shade. They offered him some water at one point, and he said, "No, thanks. I don't do plastic." So, it's that type of mentality. But during the interview, Gabby admitted she hit Brian, while Brian said he was just trying to push her away, basically to get her to stop hitting him.
Yeah.
Because she actually hit him, according to him, with her ring, her phone, and he had scratches. He had a swollen eye. He had some scratches on his arms, scratches on his hands. So he claims it was just her pushing him away. She didn't say he hit her. He didn't say he hit her. Both of them corroborate that
she hit him. Well, if he's got a scar on his face, she probably hit him. Right.
Well, he said that she slapped him and she had her phone in his hand or her rings. One of those did it because, like I said, it was a swollen eye. Now, at this point, this is what kind of is very interesting. Because they were living in the van, it's a domicile.
Yes.
Therefore, domestic assault cases or assault claims are in full force.
Yeah, because it is a domicile.
Correct.
Okay. I'm with you.
And the officer says, told that in Utah, if they arrested her or charged her, then an immediate protection order would be put in place.
For Brian.
Okay. And they even and the officers were even saying as they talked to this, they're like, this is a little 110 pound girl.
Yeah.
Against him. I mean, realistically, if you were to look at it, you wouldn't think she was the aggressor. But the law is the law.
The law is the law.
And the officers,
rule of law, not rule of man.
Right. And the officers discussed it off the side quite a bit, about what the actual law is, what the letter of law is, what they have to do. And the law is very similar to what it's here in Texas in that it says if there is signs of a domestic violence incident, not you can, not you may, but you shall.
You shall
arrest or charge.
You shall arrest or charge. Okay.
So I'm assuming the law is very similar to what it's here in Texas. So Brian is told that an automatic protection order would be put in place if they charged her. The officers did have the option to cite her versus arrest her.
Okay.
But even if they cited her, protection order goes in place. They have to separate.
Yeah.
Brian, as it was late enough in the afternoon, the courts were closed, and Brian would have to go to the court the next day and sign a waiver to get rid of the protective order. But they would have to separate that night.
Okay.
If they cited her, if they charged her. During this stop, Brian seemed very calm. But a little bit nervous, as expected. Yeah. He was joking with the officer several times, but overall, he did not seem stressed. He didn't seem upset at Gabby at all.
No, he was probably more worried about her going to jail. That's what it sounds like.
Oh, I'm actually coming to that.
Yeah.
Gabby, meanwhile, is crying the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
She's crying. She's a little bit hysterical.
Okay.
I will have to admit. But she said to the officers at one point, we've just been fighting this morning, some personal issues. Yeah, I don't know. It's just some days. I have really bad OCD and I was just cleaning and straightening up and I was apologizing to him saying I'm so mean because sometimes I have OCD and get frustrated. He even said she got mad at him because his feet were dirty and he came into the van and she was trying to clean. So it looks like that's kind of what the fight was about. and the officers,
Stop tracking stuff all over my freshly cleaned floor. Yeah, I've heard it.
Right. And the officers were even saying, hey, one of them said, I've been married 5 years, and I know things can get stressful, especially you're cramped up in this van. The officer with the body cam later said that he was once a truck driver, and his wife came with him, and he knew how stressful those kind of things could get. The police did decide to not charge Gabby.
Okay.
And let them both go, but they did recommend that they split for the night.
Yeah.
Brian, during this point, right before they told him they weren't going to charge him, I did note that Brian said to the officers, well, can I go to jail instead of her?
Yeah.
So I found that interesting.
Okay.
But anyway, so they decided not to charge them. They did recommend that they split up for the night. They couldn't force them to, but that's what they were recommending.
Yeah.
Brian wanted Gabby to have the van. He offered to sleep outdoors in a sleeping bag or even a camp, but the officers were able to get him a hotel room for the night that was provided by a domestic assault outreach group.
Okay.
So got it for free because he didn't have the money for a hotel. Like I said, they were living on very, very meager.
Oh, and that's not good for a relationship either.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Gabby, meanwhile, she didn't want to separate. But she did agree to it in the end. And so, she drove off the van and the officers took him to the hotel. This is also on body cam, the entire trip to the hotel. So I assume the next day they reunited because they went back on the road.
Yeah. Did he sign the waiver thing, I'm assuming?
He didn't have to. They didn't charge her. They didn't charge her. They didn't cite her.
That's right.
No waiver had to be put in place at all. So, I assume the next morning they got back on the road. Gabby would have regular communications with her family, either by text or FaceTime or a phone call. On August 24th, Gabby FaceTimed with her mother and told her that she was leaving Utah and they were heading up to the Teton Range in Wyoming.
Okay.
On August 25th, there are multiple texts between Gabby and her mother. Her family does believe that at this point they're in the Tetons.
Okay.
On August 27th, there were more texts between Gabby and her mother, during which her family believed they remained in the Tetons. There was a confirmation on August 27th that Brian and Gabby were seen eating at a restaurant in Jackson, Wyoming.
Okay.
So we've got visual confirmation of that. On August 29th in Wyoming, a woman...
It's my birthday.
Yeah. Well, on your birthday in Wyoming, a woman named Miranda Baker claimed that she and her boyfriend gave Brian a ride when they found him hitchhiking. Brian claimed he had been camping by himself for multiple days while Gabby was working on social media posts.
Okay.
Brian said he had been camping at a site outside the Grand Teton National Park near the Snake River. And then Miranda said that once Brian found out that she and her boyfriend were driving to Jackson Hole instead of Jackson, that Brian got very agitated, asked that they stop the car, and got out near the Jackson Dam a little after 6 o'clock p.m.
Okay.
Additionally, on August 29th, around 6:15 p.m., so just several minutes later, a woman named Norma Jean Jalovec claimed that she picked up Brian not far from Jackson Lake Dam and gave him a ride to the Spread Creek camping area.
Okay.
According to Norma, Brian told her that he and his fiancée had a travel blog and that she was in their van at the camping area working on the blog, and he had been hiking along the Snake River embankment for a few days. Norma dropped Brian off at the gate at the entrance to the camping area and offered to take him further, but he insisted that he be dropped off at the entrance. On August 30th, her family received some text from Gabby. One text read, "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." The reference to Stan here is her grandfather, but her mother said she never calls him Stan.
Okay.
Her mother did say she was very concerned something was wrong with her daughter at this point.
Okay.
I can imagine that. The last text simply read, "No service in Yosemite."
Okay.
On September 1, Brian returns to his parents' home in Northport, Florida with no Gabby. He then went camping with his family until September 3rd at the Fort DeSoto campground. I found this odd. He came home without Gabby.
Yeah.
And then they go camping.
Yeah. What was his story? Hey, she decided to stay in.
I don't know. And that's the part I can't figure out.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I can't figure out. So I'll kind of come back to this near the end. Then on September 6th, the Laundry family all went camping at the Fort DeSoto campground. Roberta Laundry, his mother, checked in at the waterfront site, and they were scheduled to be there through September 8th, and the family was confirmed to leave together from the campground.
Okay.
On September 11th, after not being able to get in touch with Gabby, her family reported her missing to the Suffolk County, New York police. Mm-hmm. They, in turn, called the Suffolk County police, called the Northport police, and they went to the Laundry home that night to speak to Brian and his family.
Yeah.
The Laundry family simply handed them their lawyer, Steve Bertolino, his phone number, and refused to talk any further.
He's already admitted what he did to the family. I'm sorry.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, they've lawyered up.
Yeah.
He's told them something. Mm-hmm. Regardless of anything, because we don't know anything. Somewhere between September 1 and September 11th, when the police showed up, he has told them something, and they've lawyered up.
Yes.
They absolutely refused to talk to police any further. But officers did seize the van and processed it in the evidence.
For a crime scene. Yep.
Well, it's not a crime scene yet.
Okay.
She's just a missing person. We don't have a crime scene, but they were able to seize the van because it is part of a missing persons investigation. Mm-hmm. On September 15th, Brian was officially named a person of interest in Gabby's disappearance. Northport police said that Brian was hindering their investigation by not providing any helpful details and not making himself available for interviews. I had to look up the laws on this because I was like, why don't you just take him in for questioning?
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. So if you are a person of interest, you can refuse to answer questions or refuse to be interrogated. Unless they actually arrested him, they could not force him to answer anything.
Okay.
However, looking back in hindsight, I kind of wonder if police wish they had done surveillance on Brian, which they don't have to arrest him for. I'm kind of surprised, and I didn't see anything on it, but I'm kind of surprised they didn't start watching the house.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, their lawyer, Bertolino, he then issued this statement, quote, "Many people are wondering why Mr. Laundry would not make a statement or speak with law enforcement in the face of Miss Petito's absence. In my experience, intimate partners are often the first person law enforcement focuses their attention on in cases like this, and the warning that any statement made will be used against you is true, regardless of whether my client had anything to do with Miss Petito's disappearance. As such, on the advice of counsel, Mr. Laundry is not speaking on the matter. I have been informed that the Northport, Florida police have named Brian Laundry as a person of interest in this matter. This formality has not really changed the circumstances of Mr. Laundry being the focus and attention of law enforcement, and Mr. Laundry will continue to remain silent on the advice of counsel."
Okay.
All right. The next day...
That's truly lawyering up.
Oh, absolutely. The next day on September 16th, Gabby's father held a press conference where he begged for his daughter's safe return and for Brian to speak up and stop hindering the investigation. Later that day, Gabby's family attorney, Richard Stafford, read aloud a letter to Brian's parents pleading for their son to speak with them about Gabby's disappearance. Mm-hmm. And that letter read, quote, "Christopher and Roberta Laundry, we are writing this letter to ask you to help find our beautiful daughter. We understand you are going through a difficult time and your instinct to protect your son is strong. We ask that you put yourselves in our shoes. We haven't been able to sleep or eat and our lives are falling apart. We believe you know the location where Brian left Gabby. We beg you to tell us. As a parent, how could you let us go through this pain and not help us? As a parent, how could you put Gabby's younger brothers and sisters through this? Gabby lived with you for over a year. She was going to be your daughter-in-law. How can you keep her location hidden? You were both at Jim and Nicole's house. You were both so happy that Brian and Gabby got engaged and were planning to spend their lives together. Please, if you or your family has any decency left, please tell us where Gabby is located. Tell us if we are even looking in the right place. All we want is Gabby to come home. Please help us make that happen."
Yeah.
Sad. That's just heartbreaking. So I want to back up. September 15th, the Laundry family issued that statement. September 16th is when Gabby's father put out that, or held the press conference. Stephen Bertolino, the Laundry's lawyer, contacted police on September 17th because the family wanted to discuss Brian's disappearance. That's why I went back. September 15th, this scumbag lawyer, I'm sorry, I have to say this.
Yeah.
This scumbag lawyer knew Brian was gone. They claim they had not seen Brian since Tuesday, September 14th. He put out that statement on September 15th.
Okay.
That makes me angry.
Yep.
I mean, it's fucking unbelievable is
Right
what
on.
it is.
Yeah.
They already knew Brian was gone. He got a 4-day jump on the police.
Yep.
Again, surveillance. Why weren't we doing
Why
it?
were we watching them? Why weren't they watching the house?
So I'm really sorry. I got angry at this when I
right
read
on.
this because they knew and then they still put
Okay.
anyway, sorry. The police did remove items from the laundry house to assist in the search because he's now a missing person.
Oh, yeah. That opens up, I imagine that probably opens up a whole bunch of doors for them legally.
Well, I mean, they said he's still just a person of interest and that they were not currently investigating a crime scene, a crime investigation.
Well, yeah, but they're investigating him as a missing person now. What
Correct.
I'm saying is I would assume there's more things that they can do now.
Well, I mean, other than search, because, I mean, on September 18th, we've got police forming dual searches. We've got police in Florida that are searching a vast wildlife preserve for Brian, while across the country, the FBI is searching the Grand Tetons in Wyoming for Gabby. So on September 19th, authorities discovered a body in Wyoming that they believed to be Gabby Petito. September 20th, police and FBI served a search warrant at the laundry home. Investigators were at the house all day with the family, and around 2:30 p.m., Brian's silver Mustang was towed away. So this Mustang, from what I read, Brian took the Mustang and left to go camping. And then the parents, I guess, went and found the Mustang and brought it home.
Okay.
So Brian's disappeared. I didn't even put this in here. He left his cell phone at home. They go and they pick up his Mustang and bring it home without him not knowing where he is.
Yeah.
This is weird. You know, why would they leave him without his car?
Yeah, especially if he's in a wilderness somewhere. He might need to drive home.
Thank you.
Go get help if he's actually missing.
Right. So, it was really weird.
Again, that's from my perspective.
Well, but I agree with you. Police also did remove evidence boxes from the house, and the search warrant indicated that authorities were looking for Brian's computer. On September 21st, an autopsy did confirm that the body found in Wyoming to be Gabby. The initial determination of the cause of death is homicide.
Okay.
The exact cause of death is still pending, final autopsy results. I did read that due to decomposition, the final results are very difficult to determine. So we're waiting any day.
Well, there are wolves and bears and coyotes up there.
Oh, yeah. Well, and her body had apparently been there for a few days.
Yeah, probably
so
weeks.
It was. I don't know that it was.
I'm thinking she was
almost a month. You could be right.
Yeah, I'm thinking she was probably dead when that text message about the grandpa went out.
A lot of people speculate that.
Yeah.
A lot of people speculate the text. No service in Yosemite. There are people that speculate Brian texted those. So who knows? On September 22nd. Search teams returned to a Florida nature park to look for Brian. This is a 24,000-acre wilderness park. It's huge.
With alligators.
So dive teams were called in to join the search.
Big ones.
Because to join the search, which includes thousands of acres of forbidding, swampy, subtropical terrain, replete with alligator, snakes, turkey, deer, and other wild creatures. And there are more than 100 miles of hiking and horseback riding trails.
And the few, I believe, the few Florida panthers that are left in the world are there.
Really?
Yeah.
On December 23rd, a federal arrest warrant is issued for Brian Laundrie in connection with his activities after the death of Gabby. They can't get him with murder.
No.
But what they can get him with, the U.S. District Court of Wyoming issued the warrant indictments on Wednesday related to Laundrie's unauthorized use of a Capital One debit card and PIN code with intent to defraud between August 30th and September 1 in Wyoming.
He used her credit card.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
He did. So, it was determined that she was killed before this, and he was using her debit card. So they now have a warrant out for fraud. That's all they got on him right now. On this same day, this was the 5th day of searching for Brian with no results. 2 separate rewards totaling $30,000 were offered on September 25th for anyone who provides authorities with Brian's whereabouts. On September 27th, Brian's parents spoke out and said they don't know where their son is and hope the FBI can locate him.
Okay.
During this week, this is just last week.
Yeah.
During this week, I don't know if his first name's Dwayne or Duan or whatever, but Dog the Bounty Hunter has joined into the search.
Okay.
He's brought his own private K9 unit. They actually searched a pair of islands off Fort DeSoto where he believes Brian may have hidden out.
Okay.
It was because of Dog the Bounty Hunter that they found out about the first of those 2 camping trips after Brian came home.
Oh.
So he's provided some extra information. On October 2nd, yesterday. I had to look at my time.
Yeah.
Yesterday. Police received tips that Brian was seen near the Appalachian Trail in North Carolina. It was previously reported that Brian was familiar with the area and once lived there for several months by himself.
So he's hiking the Appalachian Trail.
That's possible.
Okay.
There's been a couple of reports of this. One of them that said they actually talked to him and that he kind of seemed very confused. Talked about he was needing to get to California because his fiance was there.
Uh-huh.
So he may have lost it a little bit. I'm not sure. Coincidentally, there was another body found where Gabby was found due to the search for her.
Uh-huh.
This was 46-year-old Robert Lowry, who went missing on August 20 after going hiking in the area. So this came out and everybody went wild. Oh my God, there's another body there. That's going to be related, blah, blah. And when I first heard this, I had a very different thought process of what happened until authorities say there's no relation.
No relation. They just happened to find this. Oh, hey, we found another body.
Yeah. So, it kind of changed how I thought about things. Officials have urged anyone with information on Brian Laundrie, whether about his current whereabouts or any potential involvement in Gabby Petito's death, please contact the FBI. With online sleuths and theories multiplying by the day, the FBI and police have been deluged with tips about possible Laundrie sightings in as far off as Canada.
Oh, wow.
Nothing's panned out so far. If you have any relevant information, you can submit them to the FBI at tips.fbi.gov or by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI, which is or 303-629-7171. Photos and videos may be uploaded to fbi.gov/Petito.
Right on.
And that brings you up to date on the murder of Gabby Petito as of yesterday.
Wow.
So let me give my views since I've read this. If you're interested.
I am.
Is Brian guilty? I'm 100% certain he's guilty.
Yeah.
100%. Now, I just watched the body cam video yesterday, so it's very, very fresh in my mind. Before I watched the video, I thought he was just a cold-blooded murderer. And that, that second body that showed up, it was going through my mind. I was thinking, oh, someone's come across the murder scene and now he killed them too. But they're not related. It's just everything I kept reading was about how he came back home without Gabby and then shortly went on the run. So I had a very different opinion of Brian before the video. So here's a couple. Here's a few things from the video. Initially, Brian said he did not have a cell phone, but he produced it later in the video. He seemed a little nervous, but fairly calm and was laughing and joking with the officers, as I said earlier. He even made a joke that Gabby was crazy. But when the officer ask to see his hands. The officer wanted to take pictures of the scratches and everything. Have to do that for evidence. I did notice that Brian's hands were shaking some. That was really kind of the first time I had noticed any nervousness. I mean, it was general nervousness, but overall, I thought he was pretty calm.
Yeah, 21, 22, being pulled over by the cops. I can see that.
I think he's 23, she was 22.
Okay. Yeah.
In the police cruiser on the way to the hotel, he and the officer just had a casual conversation about sightseeing in national parks.
So, I was like, hey, if you're ever here, you need to go check this out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the officer had a whole bunch of stuff to tell him about the sequoias and the redwoods and everything like that. So here's what I'm going to say about Brian. Here's what I'm going to say about from after I watched the video. And, people can have their own theories. I thought Brian was kind of dumb. I really do. I thought he was kind of dumb. Which leads me to my current theory. Mm-hmm. I think that Brian and Gabby got back on the road and the tension continued. Mm-hmm. I think another fight happened, and maybe Gabby was slapping at Brian again, and he pushed her away, and then she tripped and hit her head on a rock or something, killing her.
I was thinking the same thing.
I think
his crime is not necessarily murder, but definitely leaving the scene of a crime.
Well, it's
involuntary.
It could be.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm thinking the kid
criminally negligent. There's actually such thing as criminally negligent homicide. And, and I don't know.
We weren't there.
This is just my opinion.
And then he lost it.
I absolutely. I think he got scared. Again, I question his intelligence, and he left without knowing what to do. I think he went home, he told his parents, and they got out of town to think and discuss.
Yeah.
I just didn't see a cold-blooded killer from the video. But many of the killers we've covered have been considered normal people that nobody would have expected.
Yeah, hiding in plain sight.
And then I go back to the artwork on his Instagram. I think there were some signs of some mental illness there.
Yeah.
I think
some issues.
I really don't know. I really don't know. The only thing I can hope at this point is that they find this young man and somehow Gabby's family gets to have closure.
Yeah.
Regardless of what's going on.
Well, and also we're assuming that he is alive.
I actually read an article last night that there's a former U.S. deputy marshal who says in his expertise, Brian is alive. And he had pointed to several things in the investigation that leads him to believe that Brian is alive, including the silver Mustang that was brought back home when they just left him out in the woods. There's been a lot of things. There's a TikTok video out there, or not TikTok, I'm sorry. There is an Instagram screen grab out there that a lot of people are saying was Brian accidentally going live on Instagram for a few seconds, and it shows a boat and water, and you can kind of see a fishing pole in there as well. A lot of people are speculating on the internet that was him trying to give a sign to his parents that he was okay and still alive.
Yeah.
There are people that are speculating he's trying to go by boat to Cuba. Maybe down to Mexico.
Yeah.
Who knows?
If he can get down to the Keys, it's only 60 miles.
Correct. And so I kind of agree with them. I think he may be alive. But there's other speculation that maybe he committed suicide and that he got eaten by the gators because he was out in that wilderness. I don't know.
Yeah,
every single day we seem to get something new.
Yeah, there's some gators down. And if he's still in that area in Florida, not only do they have gators, there's the American saltwater crocodile is also down there. And they're big, and they have been known to eat folks.
Well, I'm very curious what comes out of this sighting in the Appalachian Trail in North Carolina. The one guy I read the article on, he said that he didn't recognize him at first, but after the interaction with him, that he went back and goes, wait a minute, and he looked it up and he goes, oh my God, that was Brian Laundrie. He said, without a doubt, it was Brian Laundrie. He said, Brian is now in a white Ford F-150 pickup. So there's that information out there if anybody has anything.
Yeah.
And we
That's
don't...
assuming it's him.
Sure. And we don't know. We have listeners in Florida. We have listeners in North Carolina. We have listeners in Canada.
Yes.
So, keep an eye out. Look on the website.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'll have pictures of Brian. He's very distinct looking.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Okay. He's not generic white guy?
I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
I could pick him out of a lineup. I mean, he's bald. He's got a little bit of facial hair, if I recall correctly. Kind of a scrawny guy. He's not overly huge. But yeah, I just don't see a cold-blooded killer here. I know there are people online that think he is, that think he's a monster, and to a point he is, regardless whether it was an accident or intentional.
Or he just
fucking left her body there.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's assuming he didn't do it. They got into a fight and he left and something else happened to her. He still left somebody in the middle of the wilderness.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
He's either a bad guy or a moron or both.
Yeah, and I definitely sway to the moron side of things. And like I said, watch the video.
Okay.
Take an hour and watch that video of the police stop and see how you think about him.
Okie dokie, artichoke.
I'd be very interested to see with that. So yeah, with that, that's my whole story. That's what I've got, because everything was so current and up to date.
Let's do a bonus episode.
I absolutely want to do a bonus episode, especially because what if perchance, and this would be just the most amazing thing ever, what if perchance we have a listener out there who isn't overly aware of this case, although it's kind of hard to not be, and recognizes Brian.
Right on.
It's like, oh my gosh, I've seen this guy, and gives some real tips, because I do want to see him brought in, and I want justice regardless of what happened, whether he was criminally negligent or he was truly committed suicide. I don't know. I'd like for there to be some closure on this, and I hate that we're just open-ended.
Yeah, just open-ended. Yeah, because he could be out there on the lam. He could be alligator poop.
Right. So thanks for sitting with me through the bonus episode.
Surely. That was fun.
Appreciate it as always. As we talk on every episode, we do have our website, murdery.com. You can find all of our social media and our contact information. You can find our merchandise there as well. Please go out there and show off your fandom. I went chair shopping yesterday wearing my Murdery logo shirt. I wear it everywhere. I love that shirt.
Yeah, I got some for the girls. They're all wearing them.
Sweet.
I need to get Trey his too. So,
well, I had friends come over last weekend and they were wearing their Murdery shirts.
Nice, nice. You see them popping up over the place. It's like, oh hey,
yeah,
thanks. Thank you for your support.
Absolutely. If you do want to support our show, you can find our Patreon on our website as well.
Please and thank you.
Absolutely, please and thank you. That's we look for that to help support our costs as we continue to do this show. And we'll put our show notes out there for this bonus episode. Hope everybody's enjoyed it. Hope everybody's had fun. As fun as murder can be, but has enjoyed learning the tale at any rate, and maybe learn something new out of this. So that's this bonus episode of And Murdery.
And Murdery.
And I have been Jeffrey with your And Murdery.
And I have been Ziggy as your listener.
Absolutely.
Cue the music.